head coach of Freestyle Fighting Gym and the mastermind behind UFC featherweight champion Alex Volkanovski. Joe Lopez, thank you so much for joining me today. How is life in Australia?
It's a cold day today. Yeah, it's a bit chilly, but yeah, it's good. You know, we're a couple of weeks away from leaving. Still a lot of things that we've got to get through, just government stuff to try and get out of the country is a headache. Yeah, trying to get back in, trying to work things out. It's yeah, it's not easy.
Before we get into the fight and everything surrounding it, I wanted to talk about an issue that has been coming up lately in MMA and in particularly in the UFC is the cornering controversies that are coming up. And I wanted to ask you about the whole throwing in the towel or stopping the fight. What is the protocol that you put in with your fighters?
I mean, it's an individual thing. If you'll know your fighter and you'll know, you know what's wrong with him or how he's going to go with it. So it's got to be an individual process of who have you got, and I mean I've had a guy that came into the corner and I knew he was just he was always making excuses. So when he got back to the corner, he was saying, "Oh, my hand's broken," or "This was sore," and I just said, "Do you want me to throw the towel in?" And he looked at me and I said, "Mate, I'll throw the towel in now, or do you want to go in there and fight?" And he got back up and he went and fought. But that's like, you've got to know the fighter and know what they're like. A guy like Alex, who's really tough, he's not going to tell me. He's going to want to keep fighting, and sometimes you have to pull them out for their own safety because they're too tough for their own good.
Yeah, definitely. What about that situation last weekend where the fighter was telling his corner that he's done? And he said it like I believe 8 or 9 times, and the coach was just like, "You're the champion. You can be a champion. You could get in there and finish this fight. Let's do it." But it just didn't work out that way. Do you think a lot of people are blaming the coach too much? Because that's what I feel. I feel like the coach knows the fighter best, and you cannot dissect that little interaction for all the work that they put in before that fight.
Yeah, well, exactly. But again, if a guy's done it 2 or 3 times and he wants to pull the towel, well, I'll throw it in. I'm not. It's at the end of the day, he's the one who's going to go in there and get his head punched. I'll try and, like I said, if a guy's not strong mentally that way, I'll try and put that in front of him and see how he reacts to me saying, "Well, I'll throw the towel in. It's up to you." And then just see his reaction on his face. If he drops his head and goes, "Yeah, I want to go out," I'll let him go. It's his head, not mine, that's out there. So at the end of the day, you want to come back and fight another day, or save getting hurt.
All right, then there's another situation coming up this weekend. I don't even know. It's pretty nuts that Mike Perry, he's gonna have his girlfriend. That's the only person that's gonna be in his corner. He said he doesn't need his coaches. He's just gonna have his girlfriend there. Is that a recipe for disaster right there?
Yes. Yeah. It's great. If you got, there's nothing better than having a few other sets of eyes to see things. And then, I don't know her history in the fighting game. She might be great. But I always like to know that I've got another. If we've got 3 in the corner, I've got another set of 4 eyes behind me. Getting their input, and the more eyes, the better.
Let's get into this rematch that's coming up. The first fight, I wanted to get your thoughts on that and what exactly you believe Alex did against Holloway that won him the title.
Well, he outstruck him. Number one, he broke his rhythm. Especially in the first 3 rounds. He really slowed Holloway down and not allow Holloway to play his game, which he's very good at, and that's all that can be said. He outstruck him, and he put more volume in, and that's what Holloway is known for. And Alex broke him at his own game. That was our intention. It was to do that, and we've got another game plan coming in this time, and we'll play it again.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you just said. Is that was something that fighters before Alex could not do is break the rhythm, because once Holloway gets into this flow, it's hard to get him out of it, right? If you noticed in the fight before that, I believe that was Brian Ortega, he was just flowing, and Ortega could not get back into that fight and just took a beating.
So he did. And even with Frankie Edgar,
Mm-hmm.
Holloway's got really good distance and good timing. And once he knows he's touched you, that's when you're going to wear those next 3 or 4 punches. He's, he's probably, apart from Alex, he's obviously the best guy in the division. He's the hardest guy because he's tough as nails and, got good fight IQ, so he was a worthy champion, and for Alex to beat him just shows you how good Alex is, because I'm a big fan of Max's, I think he's a great fighter, a good warrior, and for Alex to do what he did to them, just shows you, I mean, the rest of the world hasn't noticed yet, but, soon enough they'll see that, Alex is an extraordinary athlete,
This fight coming up, the rematch, is somewhat on short notice. Are you a fan of taking fights on short notice?
No, not really. Look, Alex keeps himself fit, but, with all, the COVID restrictions, we weren't allowed to train full contact. He was just doing more strength and conditioning and just some, live feeds from the gym, to keep our gym members motivated through the thing. And when we got the call, we got a government clearance, so we could actually train full contact legally. And I know it was a short 6 weeks, but usually the minimum of 8. But I mean, earlier on in Alex's probably first 3 UFC fights, he suffered from injuries, back injuries, and we were only doing like 3 or 4 week camps because he was just sidelined, but he needed to fight and he needed the money, so he had to put himself out there, and now we've got a really good strength and conditioning team out of Baymed, and those guys, they're everything, they've got the physios, they've got the strength and conditioning, they've got all the science behind it, and touch wood, he hasn't had an injury since. So the last, say, 2 camps before this, he's had full camps, so it's that's made a big difference. So not that I'm a fan, but sometimes these guys, if they don't fight, they don't feed their families. And this short notice, they dangled a bit of a carrot in front of us to make it worth our while. So we had to. We all had a meeting and said, these are the pros, these are the cons, and at the end of the day, it was up to Alex, and Alex wanted to fight, and so he wanted it, and we're doing it.
In the beginning of Alex's UFC run, I've interviewed him a bunch of times, and he's always been very open about his camps after the fight, and like you just mentioned, he would not train fully for weeks on weeks and then just head into the fight with like maybe 2 weeks of training. So do you think that's going to pay dividends in this time around, because he's already fought Max once, so he kind of understands, or he does understand what to do to win the fight, and he's been in this situation where he's limited on the training?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, from when we first started training to I've been watching his sparring, like we recorded the sparring sessions, and from where he started 4 weeks ago to where the last sparring session, he's just been improving slightly, and last session he just jumped up another level, and like I just said to the boys, I go, man, he hasn't even peaked yet, and he's moving really well, so he's back on top. The next 2 weeks he'll be ready. He's going to give Max a handful. He's, like I said, he's already fit and he's moving well. I'm really happy with the way he's progressing.
You got this exemption from the government, and then you had to put a fight camp together. Was that somewhat difficult?
It was. Well, that was sort of, at that time, it was pretty stressful for me because they'd offered us the fight. We could have taken it, and then I had to say, because we usually either go to Thailand or we go to New Zealand for our camps, and this time we had to do it here, and I just had to get the right guys. So I reached out to Jamie Malaki, Josh Cullenbar, Blake Donnelly, Trent Girdham, Martin Ewan's here. We've got former UFC fighter Treco. I know there's a few other guys. Sorry if I forgot yous, but I reached out and all these guys put their hand up and they moved down here. And they've just been training every day. And it's good. Good bunch of guys really here to help us, And it's been. I couldn't ask for a better bunch of guys to help us through the camp,
Yeah, you just listed off some of the best bantamweights and featherweights in the country and in the world, right? Just Martin Nguyen, Trent Girdham, there's some big names and great bodies.
Yeah, they are, and they're here to help Alex, there's no ego, there's no anything, and like I said, they're all here as a team to help Alex bring this title back, and I couldn't be happier,
The training and game planning and everything, and he's usually going to Tiger in Phuket, and he's going to like City Kickboxing. Are you in communication with the other coaches and formulating something for this fight together?
Yeah, from day one, Eugene and Brad and myself, we've got a pretty good relationship, and we've been discussing this from day one. We watch the fights they put in there. The sparring, and even the training sessions. Things that I'm not happy with or things that I see, and then they put their input. And although, like I always say, mixed martial arts, it's an individual sport, but behind it is a team, and that's if you've got a good team behind you, you're going to get good things coming, and I'm just happy that I've got those guys in my corner,
Yeah, Volkanovski, he says that he feels disrespected and he has something to prove in this rematch, even though he won the first fight. Is he carrying a big chip on his shoulder? Can you see that during the camp?
No, Alex is just Alex. When we're at the gym, he's... like yesterday, like I was doing pads and the other boys were doing some drills, and he starts coaching the other guys, and I looked at him and I was looking at him and I'm going, Alex, and he's going, yeah, what? And I go, mate, you're the guy fighting for the title. Let them do their own thing and you get back to doing the pads, because he's that kind of a guy, he's a really good kid inside, and he wants to help other people, and sometimes he wants to help them too much. Or I've got to pull him back into line and go, hey, this is about you this time.
It just shows his character, though,
Yeah, well, I had to pull him in years ago when he was, getting ready for a camp. He'd carry a lot, because he was a lot better than a lot of the other boys at our gym, and he'd still carry them. And I'd say, mate, you're giving yourself bad habits by carrying these guys. You're getting ready for your fight, so you've got to play your game, not help them play their game. When they're fighting, so be it. But at the moment, it's your time, so you got to spar the way you want to fight,
Volk talked about getting the finish in this fight, the knockout. If it does happen, do you envision it happening early on, or do you see it going into the championship rounds?
It's hard to say, we don't know what sort of a camp Max has had, whether, according to the boys, he's been on, the Twitch or whatever for 6 hours a day playing video games. We don't know if he's been out there. I'm sure he has. But, Max is a tough guy, You see what Dustin Poirier hit him with some big bombs that wobbled him, and I call him the zombie, Next minute he's back into it like nothing happened. So he's not an easy guy to knock out. But in saying so, especially earlier on in the camp, we really started to work on tightening Alex's game up a bit, and his striking, and just working on power, a lot of power. And he was hitting, like in the early days, Alex used to hit very hard, but then he sort of went more into the speed and the timing type thing. And this time we sort of come back a little bit and have been working on him landing, setting up big power shots to, hopefully knock him out, I don't want to going to do it because then, so I'd rather just sit on the fence. Hopefully it happens.
No doubt, I understand. Do you feel Alex's ability to implement a game plan is his strongest attribute?
Yes, and then he's also got a pretty high fight IQ that he can change it, and he listens. Which a lot of people, take it for granted that he takes advice on board. And he tries it. Like I'm calling out, our code words for certain things, and we're sparring, and he's listening, and he's implementing those changes that we ask him to do. And like I said, he's got his own good fight IQ. If something's not working, he can figure it out himself. Which is good. That's why he's the champ.
Now, this fight was originally slated for Perth, which is, a short flight from where you guys are at. Now you have to fly all the way to Abu Dhabi. Do you like this idea of this fight island that they created?
I do. It's funny as you say. I wasn't real happy about fighting in Australia, although it was Perth, so it's pretty far away. But I think when we go away, we're together a lot more, and there's less distractions. When you're in Australia, you're more likely to have a lot more friends, or his friends come, and there's a little bit more distractions. I think personally, when we go away, we haven't got those. We haven't got as many distractions, because we're all hanging together, we're eating together, we're doing everything together, and we're just it's just a different vibe in my books anyway. I always like to go away for fights. I think it just brings out a better result for me personally. That's the way I feel.
One last thing, I saw that you have a history in pubs and nightclubs, working security. Any wild stories you could tell us today?
Oh, I've got a lot of stories. Where do I start? The guy, the guy from Faith No More, I forget his name. The lead singer, Mike Batten, his name was.
Okay.
He was. I did security, and because I was the head security guard, I had to escort him in and out. And on the way out, I said to the tour manager, I said, there's about 30, 40 people outside. I said, do you want me to take you out through another entrance so you don't run into all the fans? And he stepped in and he said, no, I want to meet everybody. I said, all right. But he did it very arrogantly, and he was a bit rude. But anyway, I've got a job to do. And I got him outside, and as soon as we walked outside, this girl handcuffed herself to him. And he was signing autographs. The girl's handcuffed herself to him. And they were talking, and then he said, okay, I want to go. And he said to the girl, can you handcuff me, because I want to go with leave. She's going, no, I'm going with you. Now, this girl had her boyfriend there and friends. Anyway, she's going, no, and he started to panic a little bit, and he's getting very agitated. So I come up to the girl and I said, look, you better unhandcuff him now, otherwise I'm going to call the police. They'll have keys to the handcuffs, and then you're probably going to get charged, with false imprisonment and that. So I bluffed her. Anyway, she handcuffed. As soon as she uncuffed him, he just hit her with a big right hand and dropped her cold. The boyfriend and her friends, and then all the fans just turned on him. And it was just me and another guard there, and we're just, as they're trying to get him, we're just coat hangering people. So just like I call the coat hanger, the big forearm to drop him. Her dropping him, just the van came up to pick him up. I grabbed him, threw him in the van, and the van took off, and there's about 30 people chasing this van down the road. It was a pretty wild situation, all because he didn't want to listen to me.
Wild, man. Yeah, I love it. Joe, thank you so much for the time. Good luck on the rest of the camp and getting over to Abu Dhabi and picking up this victory. We will speak soon. I love picking your brain, and we'll get you back on afterwards.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Pleasure.